They say the workplace is where dreams are built, but for many it feels more like a battlefield. You walk in each day with your head held high, determined to give your best, yet somehow it's never enough. A toxic boss can make you feel invisible, small, or even worthless. They take your ideas and give the credit to someone else. They correct you in front of everyone, but never praise you in private. They smile while they cut you down, as though your dignity is a game for them to play. And still, you stay. Not because you are weak, but because you need to survive. And in those quiet moments when you swallow your pride, you wonder, how can I ever make them regret what they did to me? The truth is, you don't need to scream, fight, or seek revenge. The most devastating response is not loud, it is silent. It is the calm, unshakable power of Stoicism. Because when you stop reacting and start rising, their control over you fades. And the day you walk away in peace, stronger than before, is the day they finally realize they never broke you. Welcome to the Forgotten Chapters, a place where ancient wisdom meets the struggles we face today. Here, we take the battles that once broke us and turn them into lessons that build us. If you've ever felt trapped under the weight of a toxic boss, this episode is for you. Think about it. So many of us step into the workplace with hope, ready to give our all, only to find ourselves cut down by someone who thrives on control. Maybe they belittle you during meetings. Maybe they twist your efforts into their own achievements. Or maybe they create an environment so heavy with fear that even your silence feels like surrender. You've lived through moments where your worth was questioned, not because you lacked talent, but because someone else lacked kindness. But here's where the forgotten wisdom of the Stoics enters. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, they faced emperors, betrayals, slavery, and humiliation. And yet, they discovered something timeless. No one can truly control you if you master yourself. The world can strike at your body, your reputation, and even your career, but it cannot reach your inner citadel unless you open the door. So in this chapter, we're not here to relive pain. We're here to reclaim power, to learn how to make a toxic boss regret their cruelty. Not by fighting fire with fire, but by rising in silence, dignity, and excellence. Stay with me, because the breakthrough you've been waiting for may be hidden in these forgotten truths. Toxic bosses rarely leave bruises you can see. Their weapons are sharper than fists and heavier than stones because they cut into the very fabric of your spirit. They ridicule you in front of colleagues, dismiss your ideas as foolish, and then recycle those same ideas under their own name. They create rules that shift without warning, deadlines that suffocate, and expectations that are impossible to meet. Every insult, every glare, every unfair criticism leaves a mark. But those marks don't show on your skin. They live inside, in the silence of your soul, where you question if you're even enough. It is in this silence that the real battle begins. Most people want revenge. They dream of the day their toxic boss is exposed, fired, or humiliated the way they humiliated others. But Stoicism offers a different path, one that doesn't depend on their downfall, but on your rise. The Stoics knew something profound. When you allow bitterness to dictate your response, you remain enslaved. But when you master your reaction, you reclaim your freedom. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled as emperor of Rome, faced betrayal, jealousy, and endless criticism. Yet he reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is the foundation of Chapter 1. Your toxic boss may strip you of opportunities, but they cannot strip you of choice. The invisible scar they leave is the belief that you are powerless. The cure is realizing you are not. Picture this. You are in a meeting, and your boss makes a joke at your expense. Your face burns, your chest tightens, and your mind screams to defend yourself. But you pause, you breathe, you choose silence. Not because you are weak, but because you understand the Stoic principle of not giving them your power. In that moment, you are free. You haven't solved the bigger problem yet, but you've taken the first step. You have not become their mirror. This doesn't mean you ignore injustice or accept abuse. Stoicism is not passive, it's powerful. It means learning to separate what you can control from what you cannot. You cannot control their ego, their cruelty, or their insecurity. But you can control your reaction. You can control your growth. You can control the way you prepare for the next opportunity. This shift is what Stoicism calls living according to reason rather than impulse. And here's the truth: your toxic boss will never admit. They thrive on your reaction. They feed off your frustration, your anger, and your despair. It fuels their sense of control. But when you stop feeding the fire, when you respond with calm awareness, they begin to lose their grip. They may not show it, but deep down they notice. And that subtle shift, your refusal to be conquered, plants the first seed of regret in their heart. Think about the scars you carry. Perhaps your toxic boss made you doubt your intelligence. Perhaps they whispered lies that you weren't leadership material. Perhaps they forced you to choose between dignity and a paycheck. Those scars are real. But scars are also evidence that you survived. And survival is the soil in which transformation grows. Every scar is a reminder that you have endured what should have broken you. That endurance is your first quiet victory. What if your boss isn't the villain, but your obsession with their opinion is? So chapter 1 leaves us with this first Stoic lesson. Acknowledge your scars, but do not become them. You are not the insults, the dismissals, or the silence they forced upon you. You are the one who endured. And endurance, in the Stoic sense, is the seed of greatness. For the man or woman who can stand calm in the storm is already stronger than the one who tries to stir it. So chapter 1 leaves us with this first Stoic lesson. Acknowledge your scars, but do not become them. You are not the insults, the dismissals, or the silence they forced upon you. You are the one who endured. And endurance, in the Stoic sense, is the seed of greatness. For the man or woman who can stand calm in the storm is already stronger than the one who tries to stir it. If this resonates, pause for a moment and type, "I'm reclaiming my peace," in the comments. Let's build a community that chooses calm over chaos, because the battle is easier when we rise together. Control is the illusion toxic bosses feed on. They build their power on making you believe they can shape your destiny, that your paycheck, your promotion, and your reputation rest entirely in their hands. And for a long time, maybe you believed them. Every cruel remark, every unfair demand, every sudden change of rules made you feel like you were trapped in a cage you couldn't escape. But here's the truth. They only have as much control as you give them. Stoicism teaches us that real freedom begins when you separate what belongs to you from what doesn't. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that the world could not be tamed. People would betray him, wars would erupt, and plagues would spread. But the one thing no one could steal was the command of his own mind. This is the second Stoic lesson. You cannot control your boss, but you can control how much of yourself you hand over to their games. Their insults may sting, but your response determines whether those insults grow roots in your soul. When you focus only on what is within your power, your discipline, your choices, your dignity, you take back the ground they thought they owned. This doesn't mean you stop caring about work. It means you stop caring about the things you were never meant to control. If they steal credit, you sharpen your skills. If they belittle you, you master composure. If they push you down, you prepare to stand taller elsewhere. In Stoicism, this is not weakness. It's strategy. Think of it like fire. A toxic boss is constantly tossing sparks into your life, hoping to watch you erupt in flames. Every outburst, every sleepless night, and every bitter rant at home is fuel for their fire. But Stoicism teaches you to let the sparks fall harmlessly to the ground. When you stop providing fuel, the fire dies in their hands. Nothing terrifies a toxic person more than someone they can no longer provoke. This doesn't mean you should ignore practical realities. Document the abuse. Build your network. Invest in your growth outside the walls of your workplace. Prepare your exit strategy if needed. Stoicism is not about pretending the world is fair. It's about refusing to let unfairness dictate your peace. Epictetus, once a slave beaten by his master, said it best, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." If you could find freedom in chains, you can find strength under the shadow of a toxic boss. They want you to snap, so when you stay calm, it terrifies them. And here lies the quiet power of indifference. Imagine your boss hurls another insult at you, expecting to see anger, but instead of breaking, you respond with calm, measured silence. You finish your work with precision. You carry yourself with quiet confidence. Over time, this composure becomes unsettling to them. Why? Because they are addicted to control, and your indifference exposes their weakness. They lose power the moment you stop giving it. The regret doesn't come immediately. It comes slowly, like water dripping into stone. They begin to realize that their cruelty never broke you, that the very fire they lit became the forge in which you grew stronger. And when the day comes that you walk away, calm, composed, untouchable, they'll finally see the truth. The control they thought they had was only ever an illusion. So chapter 2 leaves us with this. Let the rest burn. Stop carrying the burden of their approval. Stop losing sleep over their opinion. Stop giving them the satisfaction of owning your reactions. Your power is in your discipline, your peace, your ability to stand tall even in the storm. That's the part they'll regret most. Not your anger, not your words, but your strength in silence. If you're ready to take back control, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And type, "I choose peace" in the comments, because every time you declare it, you make it real. Toxic workplaces thrive on noise. The raised voices in meetings, the backhanded comments, the whispered rumors in corridors, it's all designed to distract, to pull you into a game of reaction. And when you react, you lose. That's what toxic bosses count on. They want you flustered, desperate, or visibly upset, because your reaction becomes their proof of control. But Stoicism offers a secret weapon few ever master: stillness. Not the silence of fear, but the calm of power. A silence so steady it unsettles everyone who tries to shake it. Picture a battlefield where both armies are shouting, clashing, and swinging wildly. And then, in the midst of chaos, one soldier stands tall, unmoved, watching, waiting. That soldier has already won, because panic has no hold on him. This is what Stoic stillness looks like in the workplace. When your boss throws accusations, when coworkers try to pull you into gossip, when the atmosphere becomes thick with tension, you do not bite the bait. You hold your ground, listen more than you speak, and let silence shield you. Epictetus said, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master." Toxic bosses thrive on becoming masters of emotion. They know that if they can make you raise your voice, you'll look unprofessional. If they can make you cry, they'll label you weak. If they can make you quit in frustration, they'll say you lack discipline. But when you respond with stillness, when you refuse to give them your emotion, you expose their manipulation for what it is: desperation disguised as authority. Stillness does not mean inaction. It is not passivity. In Stoicism, stillness is a conscious strategy. It's using calm to create space for better decisions. While others rush to defend themselves, you take notes. While others fight back impulsively, you plan. While your toxic boss screams, you quietly improve your craft. And in that quiet space, you plant seeds of growth that no one can see, until the day they bloom into undeniable strength. This quiet discipline is terrifying to toxic people. They thrive in storms but are powerless against calm seas. A calm, steady worker cannot be broken. They cannot be baited into foolishness. They cannot be controlled by anger or fear. And that unsettles a toxic boss more than any confrontation ever could. Your stillness becomes their mirror, forcing them to face their own noise. And in that mirror, regret begins to form. Imagine how confused they'll be when you stop reacting and start evolving. Let me give you an image. Your boss insults you in front of everyone. The room waits for your reaction. Instead, you write a note, continue your task, and finish with excellence. The silence is deafening. Not because you were too weak to respond, but because your response was too strong to waste on noise. That's the paradox. Stillness is louder than shouting. It makes them wonder why they can't reach you anymore. And here's where the true victory lies. Stillness protects your energy for what matters most: your growth. The time you once spent venting becomes time spent learning. The nights you once lost to stress become nights of planning your next step. While your toxic boss burns themselves out creating storms, you quietly prepare your escape into something greater. That's how you win the war. Not by matching their noise, but by mastering your silence. So chapter 3 leaves us with this. Stillness is not surrender, it's strategy. Every time you refuse to react, you remind yourself that your worth isn't decided by another person's chaos. You reclaim space, you protect peace, and you prepare for transformation. Because the day will come when your silence will echo louder than their cruelty. And that is the day regret begins to haunt them. If you've ever had to master the quiet game to survive a toxic workplace, type "stillness is my power" in the comments. And don't forget to like this video, because silence grows louder when we rise together. Toxic bosses want one thing above all: control. They want you small, doubting yourself, and desperate for their approval. But here's the paradox: they cannot handle true excellence, because excellence strips away their narrative. Excellence speaks a language louder than insults. It whispers, "I am more than your opinion of me." And when you rise in competence, discipline, and consistency, you create the one regret they never expected: the regret of underestimating you. Excellence is not about working yourself into exhaustion to prove them wrong. It's about turning their cruelty into fuel for your greatness. When they say you are not good enough, you learn harder. When they overlook you for opportunities, you prepare so thoroughly that your skill becomes undeniable. When they mock you, you build so quietly that one day your results speak where your voice was silenced. This is Stoicism at its core, transforming pain into discipline. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." How many hours have you wasted replaying your boss's words in your head, wishing you had said something better? What if that time was spent sharpening your craft instead? Excellence means choosing to invest in your future rather than renting space in the past. It means saying, "I won't give you my anger, but I will give myself progress." Think about it. The loudest revenge is walking into a new room where your name already commands respect, where your talent is so sharp that others wonder how anyone could have overlooked you. And when your toxic boss eventually hears of your success, the regret hits deeper than any argument ever could. Not because you sought revenge, but because you outgrew them. You turned their insults into stepping stones. You became proof that their judgment was flawed. This doesn't mean excellence is easy. It requires discipline. It means waking up early to learn when you feel like sleeping. It means staying focused while others gossip. It means turning down bitterness so you can build a better tomorrow. Excellence is not flashy. It's quiet, steady, and consistent. And in that consistency, you become untouchable. Because while toxic bosses waste energy tearing people down, you build something they cannot touch. They thought they broke you until they saw your name in places they can't reach. Imagine your boss watching you, expecting you to crumble, only to see you thriving instead. You produce great work. You stay professional when provoked. You carry yourself with dignity. To them, it's infuriating. They expected weakness but found resilience. They expected failure but found mastery. That's when the regret sets in, not when you shouted, not when you fought, but when you refused to be broken and became excellent instead. And here's the beautiful truth. Excellence sets you free. It creates opportunities beyond your current cage. It builds confidence that no insult can erase. It attracts respect that no toxic person can deny. When you choose excellence, you stop playing their game altogether. You stop waiting for their approval. You stop needing their validation. You become your own standard. And in doing so, you dismantle their power over you piece by piece. So chapter 4 leaves us with this. The greatest revenge is not revenge at all. It's excellence. It's turning scars into skills, insults into discipline, and pain into purpose. You don't need to fight them in the mud when you're destined to stand on higher ground. And when you finally reach that ground, their regret won't just be in seeing you succeed. It will be in realizing they wasted their chance to respect you when they had it. If you're already working on becoming excellent in spite of the pain, drop a fire emoji in the comments. And subscribe to the Forgotten Chapters, because here we rise by building, not by breaking. Every battle has an ending, but not every ending has to be loud. The truth is, victory over a toxic boss doesn't come the day they apologize. It doesn't even come the day they finally face the consequences of their cruelty. Victory comes when you no longer crave either. Stoicism teaches us that freedom is not about forcing the world to bend. It is about learning to stand so tall that the world's winds cannot move you. And when you reach that place of stillness, you win. For so long, you wanted them to regret. You wanted them to feel the weight of their actions, to see the pain in your eyes reflected back in their own. But the danger of chasing that regret is simple. You're still letting them dictate your story. True Stoic victory is when you no longer need their regret to validate your healing. You break the chains the moment you realize you don't need them to lose in order for you to rise. Think about Seneca's words. A toxic boss is not rich in power, they are poor in spirit. Their need to belittle, control, and dominate reveals emptiness. They crave significance, and the only way they can feel big is by making others small. When you stop craving their downfall, you expose their poverty of character. Because while they chase control, you're building peace. While they hoard power, you're building purpose. Imagine walking out of that job, not with bitterness, but with a heart full of calm. No angry goodbyes, no desperate need to prove them wrong. Just dignity. Just peace. That's when the tables truly turn. Because long after you've moved on, they'll still be left in the prison of their own insecurity. And their regret will not come from your anger, but from the silence you left behind. The silence that says, I no longer need you. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. If you mirror their cruelty, you become them. If you match their noise, you become noise. But if you rise above, if you leave in peace, if you build a life untouched by their bitterness, you become untouchable. That is where the true regret lies, in realizing they had no power to break you, even when they tried. The loudest revenge is a life so good it silences the need for revenge. This doesn't mean the journey is easy. It takes discipline to release bitterness. It takes strength to forgive, not for them, but for yourself. It takes courage to choose peace over revenge. But the reward is freedom. Freedom to live without replaying every insult. Freedom to laugh without fear. Freedom to grow without needing someone else to shrink. That's when you realize the battle was never about them. It was always about you. And here's the paradox of Stoicism. When you stop needing them to lose, you've already won. When your joy is no longer tied to their downfall, your soul is finally free. And that freedom becomes the loudest testimony. Because while they remain chained to pride, insecurity, and cruelty, you are walking light, walking free, and walking forward. That's when the story ends. Not in chaos, but in peace. So chapter 5 leaves us with this. You win not by waiting for their apology, not by hoping for their regret, but by no longer needing it. You win when your heart chooses peace over pain, growth over grudges, and freedom over revenge. That's the ultimate victory. And in that victory, they will feel the regret you never had to demand. If you're ready to let go and walk in freedom, type "I release it" in the comments. And don't forget to share this video because someone you know is still fighting for peace in silence. There's a strange truth about regret. It rarely shows itself in words. Don't expect your toxic boss to ever say, "I was wrong." Don't wait for the day they call you to apologize. That day may never come. Instead, their regret hides in silence, in the quiet moments when their mask slips, when the office empties and the echoes of their cruelty return to them. And though they'll never say it aloud, it gnaws at them. The realization that the one they tried to crush became stronger than their shadow. This is the kind of regret that lingers like smoke. You won't see it in public, but it will live with them privately. It comes when they notice your absence, when your steady presence no longer fills the room, when your work no longer saves their mistakes, when your calm no longer balances their chaos. It comes when they hear about your success elsewhere, a success they tried to suffocate but could not stop. That's when the regret stings most, when they realize their cruelty only built your resilience. The Stoics would remind us, don't crave their regret, don't chase it, don't demand it, and don't let your life hinge on it, because if you do, they still own part of you. True freedom is when their regret becomes irrelevant. But here's the paradox. The moment you stop needing it, they feel it most. Because what they wanted all along was control over your emotions. And now, they have none. Think about Epictetus, who was born into slavery and beaten by his master. His freedom did not come the day he was released. It came the day he realized that no one could control his mind. Your toxic boss may still sit in that office chair, still bark orders, and still pretend they're untouchable. But when you no longer crave their downfall, you've already risen higher. Their regret begins in the silence of your indifference. And that silence is deafening. Imagine them glancing at your empty desk, realizing the energy you brought is gone. Imagine them scrolling through LinkedIn, seeing your new role, your new life, and your new joy. They won't clap for you. They won't say your name. But inside, the regret brews, because the one they mocked has moved on, while they remain the same, a prisoner of their own bitterness. They may never say sorry, but their silence will tell the story. Still, don't misunderstand. Regret is not your goal. Your goal is peace. Regret is simply the byproduct of growth. The more you heal, the more you rise, and the more they are left with the echo of what they lost. You don't win by proving them wrong. You win by no longer caring if they ever admit you were right. And that victory is unshakable. So chapter 6 leaves us with this. The regret they'll never admit is not your responsibility to claim. You don't need to hear it. You don't need to see it. Your proof is in your peace, your progress, your unbroken spirit. That's the story Stoicism writes. You walk away calm, untouchable, and free, while they are left with nothing but the weight of their own choices. If you're walking toward peace instead of revenge, type "peace is my victory" in the comments. And make sure to subscribe, because your next chapter of freedom may begin with the very next video. They may never stand before you and say the words you once longed to hear. "I'm sorry, I was wrong." They may never admit the sleepless nights, the whispers of conscience, or the shadows of guilt that follow them. Toxic people rarely confess their regret out loud. But silence has a language, and if you listen closely, you'll hear it. It's in the pause when your name comes up, in the stiffness in their voice when they realize how far you've risen, and in the quiet ache when they remember the one they tried to break is now untouchable. That is the regret they'll never admit. But here's what matters. You don't need it. Your story was never meant to be defined by their apology. You are not waiting for their recognition, their approval, or their words to validate your worth. The Stoics remind us that dignity comes from within. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And that is the victory you've claimed. You didn't mirror their cruelty, and you didn't crumble under their noise. You grew, you built, you became excellent, and you found peace. And in that growth, their regret is automatic, even if it remains unspoken. So walk forward, free. Carry no bitterness, only wisdom. Let their silence stay with them, while your life speaks louder than anything they could ever say. Because regret, in the end, is their burden. Peace is yours. And when you choose peace over revenge, when you choose growth over grudges, when you choose freedom over bitterness, you have already won the war. That's the forgotten chapter they never wanted you to find. The day you stop waiting for their regret is the day you finally reclaim your life. If this chapter has spoken to your heart, don't let it end here. Somewhere out there, someone you know is still trapped in silence, battling the weight of a toxic boss or a toxic environment. Share this video with them, because sometimes one story, one reminder of strength, can change everything. And if you found yourself nodding, if you felt the truth of Stoicism echo inside you, then don't leave without joining this community. Hit subscribe to the Forgotten Chapters and turn on notifications, because what we uncover here isn't just philosophy. It's survival, transformation, and rebirth. Every week we dive into wisdom that makes us stronger, calmer, unshakable in a noisy world. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below with the words, "I choose freedom," if you're ready to rise above the noise and reclaim your peace. Because your declaration is more than a comment. It's a commitment. This is the Forgotten Chapters. Your story is not over. In fact, it's only just beginning.